babies in a digital world. And I'm excited about this conversation because it was actually poised to me. For those of you who don't know, I have a form that you can fill out if you're interested in proposing any topics, and we'll go through those. And somebody proposed this topic and asked that we move through it together. So this is why we are talking about this tonight. And it's a really important question. You know, my sister and I have been talking about this a lot as well because she has an 11-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. And so this conversation, this topic couldn't be more timely, especially with the rise of AI companions. And there's just a lot changing in the technological landscape for our babies. And so if we want to do it well, if we want to raise them well in this stage of life where frankly so many of us, we don't really know yet the impact on screens on their minds to the extent that we probably will once we have a full generation to compare them with. But for the most part, we don't have full-blown data sets quite yet that really gives us a good understanding of the real impact on their minds, especially if they're using screens starting at, 6 months old, they're watching shows. So we don't know. We don't know the impact. And so there's something around, it's you and I have to go with our own intuition, and we have to understand, what feels right for me and how do I want to raise my kids according to my own intuition and how I feel led. So effectively, this conversation is based on a question. I just pulled it up here and I'm going to read it out exactly of what was asked. Speak on the overall scope of navigation parents face in this modern workforce in terms of raising their children. So we're going to talk about both of those. And if Christopher Adams joins tonight, we'll let him kind of take some more of the floor in that regard because he submitted this question. So I hope he does. But we're talking all about raising babies tonight. DJ, good to see you. He says your nemesis is back. I'm glad you're here. I don't think I've seen a question come through from you, but I'd love to see if you have any questions. I know you have a lot of questions, but if you want to put one in the form, I'd love to engage. And frankly, what it is that when people do put in their questions, it takes the center stage of what this conversation is for. And for those of you joining, Walid, hello, good to see you. Larry, thank you. Thanks for joining. Burns. Y'all, this is just some context for what we're going to be chatting about tonight. We're chatting about raising our babies in this digital world. And one of the things that I want to offer is that I want to hear your questions and I primarily want to hear your comments and feedback around this topic. And if you have another topic that you want to bring up, if it's like super left field, I actually have a form for you guys to fill out that will help guide conversations. Today, we were on a call and we were talking AI and somebody listed 7 AI focused questions. So we just couldn't get to every single one of those, but that's an example of, feel free to, I want to hear your questions. Star, hello, good to see you. Donnie, thanks for joining. And so just some quick guidelines before we dive in today. As you guys have questions, if they're super not related to this topic, we'll put them in a form. But also, I'm going to just start doing this. And I've had people comment and say, hey, like the chat is getting inappropriate. And so I just start putting people on timeout. Apparently, you can do that. I didn't know. But we really want to keep this chat focused on the topic and focused on, frankly, bringing encouragement to each other. We only have this one life to live, and we only know, at least for today, that we've got today to live. And so I just want this time to be so well spent and meaningful and life-giving to each one of us. So, okay, let's go ahead and dive in. This question around raising kids in a digital age, and Christopher, good to see you. We are talking about your question that you submitted. I'm pulling it up here, and the general question that we put here in the chat is raising kids in a digital age. But you said in your submission, the overall scope of navigation parents face in this modern workforce in terms of raising their children. So I'd love to hear, Christopher, if you like the delineation around how you define workforce. Is it more so around the digital space, or is it more so around workforce? Because I wanted to make sure that we addressed your question. Well, DJ, you weren't being inappropriate. I'm talking about excuse me. I'm talking about people who are literally being inappropriate. So no, I welcome questions, but so just to give a quick recap, the rules of engagement for this time: we're going to be kind, life-giving to each other. We're going to ask questions ideally around this topic, but if you have other ones that aren't related, we'll go ahead and I'll send you the link and you guys can fill out a form elsewhere. And then we'll have that be the entire theme of a future conversation. Okay, so this topic, y'all, this weekend, it was really timely that we're talking about this. This weekend I was home, and I was visiting my sister and my 11-year-old niece, and she has a little business. She came to me last year and she said that she has all these little crafts that she created and she was going to throw them away, but her mom recommended that she use them for good and effectively become a mini alchemist. And so she came to me and said, I'd love to start a business with these crafts. And so we went away for the weekend. She and we went to go see a show, and we spent the weekend in our favorite hotel, and it was so much fun. And we built out her little business. And it's in the process of becoming a nonprofit. It's called Caring Crafts and Cookies. And her audience is nursing homes and retirement communities. And she brings cookies and crafts, and her mission is to bring the joy of Jesus to everyone that she encounters. So absolutely, what a beautiful little soul she has. And she did the work. She built out a ChatGPT for it to help her create the content for the website. She actually built her own website on Wix. She called a retirement community, got us in around the Christmas time, and we went in and we had crafts and cookies for all the residents, and then we sang Christmas carols for them, and it was really, really beautiful. And we went back this past weekend for Valentine's Day, and we sang all these love songs, and it was just so cute. And it was really meaningful to see her, honestly, in her element. Like that is something that she's really passionate about. And so when it comes to raising our kids, one of the things that I get to experience as an auntie is to be able to come in a different role that is parenting, which is let me blow life and oxygen on your dreams. And I have the time and bandwidth to do that. Whereas my sister, she's got a 1.5-year-old and she has to keep house, and it's a lot of work. And so being raised in a communal sort of way, my sister and my niece actually at 3 weeks old was when my brother-in-law was killed. And so my niece at 3 weeks old and my sister moved in with us. And so I kind of helped raise my niece at a really young age until she was around 2.5. And so this communal living, there's something around that that's so, so important. And in the Western culture, we don't experience it as much. We live very isolated from each other, and we live very isolated from family, whereas in Eastern culture, that's just how you live. I have a number of coworkers and employees around the world, and they live with their parents until they get married. And even after they get married, they even continue to live with their parents sometimes. And so communal living is something that, when we're talking about raising our kids in a digital world, and even at Christopher Adams, to your question around the modern workforce, it's so incredibly hard to do it well when we're trying to do it alone. And so to this point of, what do kids even need? How can I be everything to them? I think even acknowledging, I actually can't and I shouldn't be, and thank God that there's help around me, ideally. And so having somebody come in and help blow oxygen on their dreams, having somebody come in to even play, this weekend as well, we went to the retirement community, and then we came back and I went sledding with my niece. And I had this thought while we were walking up the hill with our sleds. I was like, my cheeks haven't been flushed from play since I was probably, 12, 14 years old. And it was so good. It was so good for me. And she had the best time. My sister left a voice note to me And she said, she talked about how not even her own friends want to play. There's something around play. We graduate out of play for some reason, but play is so intrinsic to just the human being. We don't age out of play. And I think for us to recover play, for us as the parent, but also for us as the auntie or the grandparent, to help our kids to bring that into the fullness of their adolescence is so important, because it keeps us creative. It keeps us youthful. It keeps us young in so many ways. I'm just going to take a quick note, a quick pause here and jump here into the chat. Okay. All right. Retro Rocket, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Larry, how do you feel about the amount of censorship on the internet? I got to tell you, I don't know the legality there. I don't know the laws or rules, or I can't speak to that because I don't know exactly what's happening. But what I will say, growing up, my parents had, they had, what's it called? Like purity, something like Pure Eyes or something. Like it was some company where it was like it wouldn't let you go to porn sites, and that was really helpful. I mean, my siblings and I felt very innocent growing up. Like I just never saw anything. And now kids these days, if they've got social media apps, if they've got TikTok, they've got almost instant access to God only knows. And so my sister and her husband, they're not letting my niece have a phone. God bless her. It's kind of an ongoing battle, but honestly, at the end of the day, my niece has kind of stopped fighting it, because she sees her friends and she actually is like, I don't think I really want to be like that. I don't want to be glued to my phone. I want to have fun. I want to play. But Larry, I'm curious if there's something in particular you had in mind there. Star, thank you. Thank you for joining. James, Mohan, good to see you. All right, just going down. All right, Chris Broad, I'm doing so good. I've been super sick, but I napped for a while today, and I'm just trusting I'll get to all the work I need to do. All right, Retro Rocket. What is emergent ability in large language models? Why do transformers scale so well? When will we reach AGI? Why don't you, what I'm going to do, Retro Rocket, those are a lot of good questions. Let me and frankly, I can't speak to all of those. Go ahead, Retro Rocket, and fill out this form. If you don't mind, that's where you can ask those questions. And I can even there's a lady named Jennifer Bagley, and she is like an AI wizard, and she can probably answer those questions better than I can. Okay, going back to the chat. 20 Twin, we don't actually talk like that here on the show, so feel free though to ask any questions here around this topic, around raising babies. So yeah, Retro Rocket, such good questions. Feel free to put those in the chat here, or I'm sorry, in the form. All right, Emery Saint, good to see you. All right, I'm just looking back. Okay, sorry, I saw you had a comment, Christopher Adams, so I'm scrolling back up to find it. To be specific, I meant the everyday American worker, whether white collar or blue collar. I'm assuming you mean like kind of just raising a family in that regard, like regardless of blue collar, white collar, right? Especially in the corporate arena, as I like to call it. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, Christopher. If we would allow support from our nucleus, from our family nucleus, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, and even so growing up, we actually had a pretty strong nucleus, both with our immediate family, but also my parents. We were part of a really involved church where they called it care groups, where my parents, every single week, they would bring their kids and they would all gather as families for like 3 hours. And so the kids would all play together and the parents would have like a group meeting. And there's something around church and religious communities that really allow for the communal engagement in a way where it's like, man, they're getting support. Like there were many times where my parents called members of their care group and were like, hey, we're having a baby, because my parents had 6 kids. And so there were many phone calls that they had to make, and they got marriage counseling from people in their community group. They got babysitting when they went into labor. They got just regular babysitting. One of the things that was super important for my parents, because this was actually one of the things that the leader of the community group really emphasized, was you need to go on date nights. It's going to be impossible for you two as a couple to maintain your unity and relationship if you're not investing in each other. And so my parents had date nights every single week. And it was so helpful and so important for them. And then another thing that my dad would do with us that I loved was on a quarterly basis, he called it a retreat. And we would all drive to a retreat center, which is like they have conference rooms, but then they also have fishing, and they have, I don't know, jet skiing, kayaking. It's just kind of like in a remote area, really, really beautiful. And my parents really invested in us as a family nucleus and helping us cultivate relationship with each other in intentional ways, where it was dinner time every night. We all sat together as a family, literally without fail. Sundays, we would all have lasagna after church. And then honestly, this is something that was really, really special to me growing up. We would all gather in the family room after, and we would actually pray for our week together. And so all of us would be like doing puzzles or painting or knitting or just like doing a craft while listening to what was going on in each other's lives. And it fostered a real community. And now we have a family WhatsApp thread where we're just constantly sharing updates and what's going on. But growing up, digital devices and movies, we never had TV. And we really were active with my grandparents. We were active with our family, and we were active in these community groups. And y'all, there's so much benefit to that in so many different ways. One, as parents, we get exhausted. We can't help it. There's so much to do, and there's constant, even more distraction than ever before. And so we get drained. I read this book called The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jake Papasan, and it talks about how you start the day at 100% energy and willpower. And then throughout the day, it all just dwindles like a battery pack. And so it's really important that we have other people in our lives that can come in, that we trust, that we respect, who hold similar values that we do, to come in and engage with our kids, to love on them and be that additional figurehead in their lives that they can even go to. Let's say that they're having a hard time with me as the parent. They can go to that person that I trust, and they can go get advice in that regard. Just scrolling back down to the chat. Detroit, happy Valentine's Day. Ima, thank you. I love Valentine's Day. Brian, oh, I love this question. If you had a day with a completely empty schedule, how would you choose to spend it? I'm going to save that one, and let's get to that at the end, because that's such a fun question. That's so good. DJ, should the government take over for the family structure in order to stop AI influence over said children? Have parents allowed daddy government too much control? What an interesting question. And frankly, it's funny. It actually reminds me a little bit of, how I was raised, and in the environment where I was raised. There was something around where the church was actually playing daddy, where a lot of the parents were actually expecting like, all right, well, so this is going to get religious for a second, but this is to prove a point. So they would effectively expect that on Sunday school, when the kids go to Sunday school, the Sunday school teachers are the ones who are going to teach the children about God, and they would abdicate responsibility. They'd throw up their hands and be like, oh, well, they're going to Sunday school. And it was just kind of a lazy get out of jail free card, rather than doing the work to ensure that their relationship with God was cultivated. And it kind of goes along the same vein as this question of, are you actually taking authority in your home Do your kids know that you're someone to respect, that you have the final say? And I think that that's a really, really important question. When we talk about, we want our kids to not be on their phones, we want our kids to not be addicted. I saw you say it's an addiction issue. In so many ways it is. And then the question becomes, well, are we addicted? What's the example we're modeling for them? Are we actually able to show them a different and alternative path, whether that's creating an environment outside of the bedroom that they want to come and enjoy? Because a lot of kids just go hide in their bedroom. They're on their phones, they're on their laptop messaging people. And that's such an alluring place to be. But y'all, if we as parents are really taking a dominance in our home so that our kids want to come outside of the bedroom, they want to be engaged, they find it a fun place to exist, man, that's a beautiful, wonderful thing. And so I think that it actually becomes the question of, what is the culture of your home? And are you taking responsibility for what are the values that you want to instill? Who do you want to be as a family? We talk about that a lot on the show, of who do we want to be as individuals, but who do you want your family unit to look like, be like? What are the behaviors you want to both model and also manifest among your children? And so I think a lot of times it actually warrants us to take a step back. Have we actually done the planning and intentional insight into examining, what do I even want my family and my environment in my home to be like to begin with? And from there, then it's, okay, let me set up boundaries to ensure that I can get this done. But it's not just removing things and saying no to things. What are we instead saying yes to? Because if we don't add in a new target, we're going to end up repeating, if they have no alternative, they're just going to want that thing that you're saying no to. And I do think that this is a really good opportunity for us to look in the mirror. I know that this thing, I find it especially, honestly, I hate this and I need to grow in this way. I reach for my phone at a stoplight. I reach for my phone even when I'm driving. It's so not good. It's just like, oh, I'm not doing anything right now. Let me reach for it. I'm driving. You know what I mean? So what is the example that we're setting for our kids? And it's so easy to have these ideals, but to not actually create the action plan necessary to fulfill on them. Darth says, I was 14 before the internet dial-up was introduced. Times were better. I didn't have a phone until I was 16, and I completely agree. Growing up, there was no internet. Honestly, there was a simplicity there. And we get to decide, how do you want to raise your kids? A lot more people are fascinated about homesteading, and a lot more people are wanting to kind of go live out in fresh air. Our food and the water, and it's getting bad, in so many ways. And so what's the environment that you want for your family? I think that that's just really important questions for us to be examining. All right, I'm just going back to the chat here. Vern's not here. That's so kind. You have to first, okay, I love this. Michael Grimes says, you have to first understand your soul or spirit first before you can understand your human body and money. People got to start understanding their spirit and soul immediately before anything else. What a good reflection, especially to this point around raising your kids. Do you even know yourself to begin with? What a good question. And hence the name of this show, The Knowing Show. Creating and charting a path for our family. So much of that is predicated on who we are and what we value. And we're going to actually be diving into that more so tomorrow night. We're going to be doing kind of like a part 2 to the personal brand. But I'm glad you brought that up. We need to know who we are. The government should not be parenting anyone's kids. Frankly, I didn't even know that was a thing that was coming up. Okay, just looking here in the chat. Retro Rocket, will kids talk to AI teachers? I would not be surprised at all. I think we are heading in that direction in so many ways, which, I don't like it. And frankly, I really would love to homeschool my kids. and have, this is again where community is really important. Like, I don't necessarily want to be the teacher because that's scary, but I really would love to have a community where we've got, an English teacher from Joey's mom, and she either got a degree or she was a copywriter and, has a great job. There's so many people in our communities if we start thinking that way. And I was actually part of, it was called Granite, and it was very classical education. And we went to school 2 days a week, and we're home the other three. And when we were at school, we wore uniforms. It was very much so private school-esque, but we were only there 2 days a week. It was super interesting. I've never experienced anything else like it. And I love that model because you get the structure. And frankly, it's important. I think it was important for me to learn to submit to authority in that way because my parents were very lenient. And so for a teacher to say, no, that's your grade, you got to stick with it. Whereas my parents could be sweet talked to giving me a better grade. It was a good experience to have other authority figures for me. But the freedom that came with that, like my parents would take us one morning, my dad woke us up and he was like, we're going to Florida for 24 hours, literally. We drove down, we did Florida for the day, and then I think we came back the next day. It was crazy, but it was so much fun. He had the freedom to do that because of our environment with school. Will AI be smarter than all humans? Retro Rocket. I'm curious to hear other people's. Next Life, I'm sorry, I got to put you on timeout. Bummer. But I'm curious to hear y'all's perspective on that. Can AI be smarter than all humans? I want to open that to the forum. Actually, I'm going to do this. All right, y'all, this is the question. Drop your comments here in the chat. Christopher Adams, amen. Proverbs 22 and Deuteronomy 6:9 come to mind. Teach your children in the way of the Lord. Show your children the love and truth of him, lest they fall away. Such beautiful verses. My gosh. Hi, Benjamin. I'm glad to see you. All right, Ray, I think if you can control the flow of electrons directly to create, I think I'm coming in mid-conversation on that comment. All right, coming through here, just coming down to the bottom. Okay. OZ and 3T, no. AI will one day take over most knowledge-based jobs, finance, any work with that is service-based. AI will replace the workforce for humans, will be what we can build to develop healthcare. And I would even say, Darth, I think that one of the biggest areas that people are really going to want to be with humans is, frankly, the ones where they value the person-to-person relationship, and also considering demographic based, the older generation. I think that, if you're calling and selling, to your point around healthcare, and you're selling assisted living care, I think sales jobs are actually going to remain for certain demographics in so many ways. Even just yesterday, I was touring an apartment unit and the woman was driving me around, and I was like, man, this is really, really nice to have a real person driving me. Okay. All right. I'm just scrolling down to see what these answers are. I was talking about flying cars. She took us to Six Flags. I love that. So I don't know, Retro Rocket, if you feel like you got your question answered, but I know that there's a lot of different opinions here. Y'all, I think that this is a big question. How is technology currently serving your kids? What are they using it for as an escape? What are they escaping from? What are they using it to numb out? Or just how are they enjoying it? What is life giving to them about this technology? And I think then it also becomes a question for us to look in the mirror as well and say, why is it so easy for me to plop my kids in front of the TV? What am I modeling when I pick up my phone? And that's a mirror moment, right? Because sometimes we can gripe and complain around how our kids are so addicted to something, but maybe it's actually serving us because it's keeping us from having to do the work of raising our kids. And that's something that I've seen a lot. And it's like a big red flag for me of a boundary and a value that I want to have for myself. But here's the thing, if we're running on empty and if we've got nothing to give, it's probably actually safer for our kids to be placed in front of or with somebody that's going to be life-giving to them rather than existing with mom and dad who's angry or like you have to walk on eggshells around them because they're so exhausted. So are we knowing how to replenish our own cup and fill our own cup before our kids come back from school? One thing my dad would do, he would, wake up at 5 a.m., go on the job site. Our family has a 100-year-old painting business. My great grandfather started it in 1922. And my dad would come back around 5, 6 in the evening, and he would lay down on the floor. And I just like have this vision of him laying down with his hand covering his face, his eyes, and he would do a power nap for 30 minutes. And then he would wake up and just be completely refreshed. And that was how he transitioned from work into family. And he was so present with us. He had questions that he wanted to ask us, and he would actually take notes on us as kids and literally remember what's going on with us and how are we doing and what are we focused on and what are we growing in. And so there's something around, do we know what our own capacity is? Are we building in boundaries? And when I say boundaries, like think of it as a hedge around you and me to ensure that we're keeping our cup filled so that when our kids interact with us, our spouse interacts with us, they're not getting our leftovers. And they're the ones that we're saying we're doing all this for anyways, but are they getting the leftovers where it's actually kind of worse than what our coworkers get just because we're so tired? So just jumping here in the chat. Cody, you can watch your kid from your TV. That's wild. Patriot Watcher, no. Naps are life changers. Yes, it's so true. Okay, y'all, I am going to jump off. I am going to probably go to bed very soon, talk about naps being life changers. Sleep in general is life changing, and I have just been so sick. So I am going to head to bed. And I really mean it, y'all. If you guys have questions, I would love to hear them. I actually think I dropped the wrong link earlier. Let me drop the right one. If you guys have questions, Christopher Adams, thank you for this. How was this? Was this encouraging, helpful? I'd love to hear if you have any further questions before we jump on. My kid never napped. That's the worst. My mom, talk about having a hedge of protection around her. She would have rest time every day from like 2 to 3. Even when we were beyond the age of napping, she would nap on the couch. Again, I just have this like picture of her in my mind napping on the couch while us kids, like we just knew we couldn't bother mom for an hour. And that was her nap time. And, she had 6 kids, and my dad had 6 kids and a business, and God bless them, And so knowing how to take care of ourselves is so important to make sure that we're able to really give our family our best, because they're the ones that deserve it more than anybody. Y'all, thank you so much. CJ, I love that. I like the name of your channel, Knowing is Better Than Believing. Y'all, thank you so much for joining. Have such a wonderful night. I will talk with you all so soon. And Brian, you asked a question, and I said I would wrap up with it. So let me find it. Y'all, it would be fun for all of us to answer this. Look at what a fun question this is. If you had a day with a completely empty schedule, how would you choose to spend it? I'd love to hear from all y'all, and I'll answer too. And then I will go to sleep. What would I do? Honestly, I'd probably be with my family. I just really, really love them. I'm scrolling down to the bottom of the chat so I can see other people's answers. I would be with my family. I would probably go to brunch because brunch is amazing. There's this little spot in Northern Virginia called Mia's, and it's this Italian restaurant, and they have literally the best brunch ever. So I'd probably go to brunch there, Um, I would probably go walking after because I've implemented walking as a routine, within 10 minutes of eating to help with digestion. And I just love that practice. Well, first I'd wake up and get vertically aligned, and then I'd go to brunch. I'd get vertically aligned, work out, go to brunch with my sisters and my family, and probably my sisters and my parents. And then I don't know what I would do in the afternoon, but in the evening I would definitely go dancing. Oh, Christopher Adams, I'd take my daughter to the park and feed ducks on a summer day. I love that. Ray says I would fly an F-18 around the world. Hot dog. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Brian says sleep more than half the day. I love it. Oh, guys, I love honestly getting to know y'all. It's so fun. I'd import a spa from China and order sushi. Cody. That is the most extra and epic response, and I'm a little jealous I didn't think of that. Import a spa from China. I'm so respect. That's awesome. Patriot Watcher. My kid's mother lives in Virginia, Henrico. Nice. My place is in Alexandria. Arlington, Alexandria. I love it. The great one. Thank you. I'm still feeling pretty bad, but I was able to nap a good bit today. To Brian's point, sleep half the day. And that was helpful. But yeah, I think I still need to get well. DJ, I'd engage in conversations with people and get different viewpoints. I'd learn as much as I could. I love that. DJ, I really appreciate how willing you are to, one of the things, frankly, and I owe you I owe you an apology. I read some of your comments that were direct as aggressive. And so, frankly, I don't do well with aggression, and that's something that I need to grow in. And you were just being direct. So please forgive me for that. I really appreciate how committed you are to growth. And I am as well. It's in a different way. But I just really appreciate the perspective that you bring. So, oh, Christopher Adams. Oh, I almost forgot. Slow dance in the living room with my girlfriend to 40s music. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is so good. I love it. Nathan, hi from England. I love England. And Darth says, I am from the UK. I love it. Steve Hannigan, yes, we're going to do another game night Wednesday. So those of you who are here, we're going to do another game night 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, this Wednesday. So come and join us. I'm excited. We'll do another trivia night. All right, y'all. I really appreciate you guys joining tonight. Ray says, if it gets worse, Christine, get a Z-Pack. Oh, good call. Cody says, I want to grow. Me too. I really, really, really do. And frankly, I need to grow in just working with people who are more direct and just not taking it personally. So, all right, y'all, have a good night. Pat Gamble, thank you for coming. I'm sorry we're just jumping off. I'll be on again tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. for A Course in Miracles, and then again tomorrow night at 8:30. No, I'm sorry. I'll be on 9 a.m. tomorrow for A Course in Miracles, and then 8:30 p.m. tomorrow night. No, I won't. Oh, no. I forgot I have reservations. Poop. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Does 7 p.m. Eastern work for you guys tomorrow? 7 p.m. Oh, Christopher Adams, you have no idea how encouraging that was. Thank you so much. Really, that's my mission. Y'all, for those of you who are just joining and for those of you who have been on tonight, knowing who we are and knowing what we're called to do and knowing God and just coming to walk in the fullness of who we can be is just it's what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so it's just super meaningful to hear when it serves. So thank you. All right, y'all, let me know about 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. Pat Gamble says yes. Reese, no, I would say this is not a cult. I would say this is more like a community where we hang out and grow together and grow in different ways, as DJ is helping me do. And so 7 p.m. tomorrow, 7 Eastern. Let me know, guys, if that works. So yeah, 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Pat says yes. All right, great. Well, I'll take Pat's answer and have it apply for everybody. Y'all, thank you for joining. This was a really good conversation. And, I think as we kind of summarize, when we are looking at our kids and their usage of their digital world, I think it's just a good opportunity for us to examine how much are we leaning on social media and AI and just technology to replace relationships and distract from the present moment. So yeah, I think that that's just a good question for all of us. All right, y'all. Ken says 7 works. Pat, y'all, thank you so much. Ray, I'm going to go get some good sleep. Y'all, I'll talk to you soon. Have a wonderful evening, and I will see you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, for A Course in Miracles. Bye.